The observation deck of Station Kepler 7 stretched across the outer rim like a glass eye staring into the void. Inside, maintenance worker Marcus Chen sat cross-legged on the polished floor, watching a small creature with silver fur and too many teeth try to attack its own reflection in the transparent aluminum wall. The Cathari cub was no bigger than a house cat, though Marcus knew from the xenobiology briefings that it would eventually grow to the size of a grizzly bear. Its species had been classified as apex predators on their homeworld, and this particular cub had been rescued from a crashed smuggler vessel 3 weeks ago. The station commander had placed it in quarantine, but Marcus had volunteered to help with its care. Someone had to feed the thing, after all, and most of the crew were terrified of it. Right now, the cub was growling, a sound like grinding metal mixed with an angry cat's hiss. Its 6 legs were spread wide, claws extended, hackles raised along its spine. The enemy it faced was formidable and matched every movement perfectly. The cub lunged, the enemy lunged, the cub retreated. So did the enemy. Marcus had been watching this display for 10 minutes. The other xenobiologists had documented similar behavior and dismissed it as simple aggression. The Cathari were known to be territorial and violent, after all. But Marcus saw something else in the cub's movements. There was confusion there, not just anger. The way it tilted its head after each failed attack. The way it sometimes paused and stared, as if trying to understand. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a protein bar. The cub's 4 eyes swiveled toward him immediately, though it kept its body facing the reflection. Marcus had learned that the Cathari had incredible peripheral vision. The cub made a questioning chirp, a sound so different from its aggressive growl that it almost seemed like a different creature. "Not yet," Marcus said softly. "First, let me show you something." He stood slowly, making sure not to startle the cub. Over the past weeks, he had built something resembling trust with the creature. It no longer tried to bite him when he brought food. It even allowed him to check its healing wounds from the crash. The station's doctor had been amazed. Cathari were supposed to be untrainable, driven purely by instinct and hunger. Marcus walked to the glass wall and knelt beside the cub. This close, he could smell its strange scent, like copper and ozone. The cub glanced at him, then back at its reflection, growling again but with less intensity. It was clearly frustrated. "That's you," Marcus said, pointing at the reflection. The cub's growl died in its throat. All 4 eyes focused on Marcus's finger, then followed it to the glass. In the reflection, it could see Marcus pointing, could see itself standing there with silver fur bristling. Marcus placed his own hand against the glass. His reflection did the same, palm meeting palm with nothing but transparent aluminum between them. "See? That's me. This is my hand." He wiggled his fingers. The reflection wiggled back. The cub watched intently. Its head tilted almost 90 degrees, a gesture that would have broken a human's neck but seemed natural for its flexible spine. Marcus could practically see the wheels turning in its mind. "Now you try," Marcus said, gently taking one of the cub's front paws. The cub tensed, but didn't pull away. Marcus guided the paw to the glass, pressing it against the surface where the reflection's paw appeared to meet it. The cub froze. Its breathing stopped. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the cub pressed its nose against the glass, just as its reflection did the same. The eyes, all 4 of them, went wide. The cub pulled back, looked at Marcus, then looked at the reflection again. It raised a paw. The reflection raised a paw. It tilted its head left. The reflection tilted right. The mirror image perfect. A sound emerged from the cub's throat, something Marcus had never heard before. Not a growl or a chirp, but a kind of confused, wondering trill. The cub sat down heavily, still staring at its reflection. Then it did something that made Marcus's breath catch. It looked down at its own body, at its silver fur and 6 legs, then back at the reflection. Back to itself. back to the reflection. The connection was being made. The understanding was forming. That thing in the glass was not an enemy. It was not another creature. It was self. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He had just witnessed something extraordinary. The Cathari were supposedly non-sapient, operating on instinct alone. But this cub had just demonstrated self-awareness, one of the key markers of true intelligence. And it had done so because someone had taken the time to teach it, to show it what it was looking at. "Good," Marcus whispered. "That's you. You're seeing yourself for the first time." The cub made that trilling sound again and pressed both front paws against the glass, touching its reflection's paws. Then it did something that surprised Marcus even more. It turned away from the reflection and bumped its head against Marcus's leg, a gesture the xenobiology database listed as a sign of trust and affection among adult Cathari-bonded pairs. Marcus carefully stroked the cub's head, feeling the silky fur under his fingers. "You're welcome, little one." Over the following weeks, the cub's behavior changed dramatically. It no longer attacked its reflection, but would often sit by the glass wall, studying itself. It began to recognize its own paws, its own tail, its own face. More importantly, it began to understand cause and effect in new ways. When Marcus brought food, the cub would wait patiently instead of lunging. When toys were offered, the cub would experiment with them, testing how they worked. The station's xenobiology team took notice. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the head xenobiologist, spent hours observing the cub's interactions with Marcus. She ran tests, documented behaviors, and eventually called a meeting with the station commander. Marcus was asked to attend. He sat in the conference room, feeling out of place among the scientists and officers in their pressed uniforms. The cub, which had been allowed out of quarantine under Marcus's supervision, sat at his feet, calm and alert. "Mr. Chen," Commander Williams said, "Dr. Tanaka tells me you've achieved something remarkable with our young friend here." Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just spent time with it." "Showed it some things." "You taught it self-recognition," Dr. Tanaka interjected, her eyes bright with excitement. "Do you understand what that means? The Cathari have been classified as non-sapient for over a century. Every attempt to communicate with them has failed. They've been treated as dangerous animals, hunted on some worlds, avoided on others. But this cub has demonstrated cognitive abilities that suggest we've been wrong all along." Or, Commander Williams added carefully, "it suggests that they have the potential for sapience, but require specific environmental conditions or teaching to develop it." Marcus looked down at the cub, which was now grooming its paw with a long, rough tongue. "I think they just need someone to be patient with them, to treat them like they're capable of learning instead of assuming they're just beasts." A long silence followed his words. Finally, Dr. Tanaka spoke. "That's very human of you, Mr. Chen." "What do you mean?" "Humans have a unique trait among sapient species," she explained. "You domesticated wolves into dogs. You tamed horses and cats and countless other creatures. You form bonds with animals that other species consider impossible to train. And more than that, you have this ability to see potential in creatures that others dismiss. You assume intelligence until proven otherwise, while most species assume the opposite." Commander Williams nodded. "The Galactic Council needs to know about this. If the Cathari can be taught, can be communicated with, it changes everything. Their homeworld is currently under a protection order, designated as a preserve for dangerous fauna. But if they're sapient or pre-sapient, they have rights. They could be uplifted, educated, integrated into the galactic community." Marcus felt the weight of those words. The cub at his feet, innocently cleaning its fur, represented an entire species. A species that might have been more than anyone realized, if only someone had taken the time to teach them, to show them who they were. "What happens to this one?" Marcus asked, his hand moving protectively to rest on the cub's head. That's up to you, Commander Williams said. You've bonded with it. Our regulations allow for special circumstances, and I can't think of a circumstance more special than this. If you're willing to continue its care and education, you have my authorization. Consider yourself promoted to Xenological Liaison Specialist. Marcus couldn't help but smile. I don't know anything about xenology. You know the most important thing, Dr. Tanaka said softly. You know how to teach someone to see themselves. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same observation deck with the Kithari, which was now twice the size it had been. The cub, though no one called it that anymore, sat beside him, watching a video call with representatives from the Galactic Council. Behind them, visible through the glass wall and its faithful reflection, stars wheeled in their ancient dance. The council members listened as Dr. Tanaka presented her findings, as videos played showing the Kithari's progress in learning, in communicating through a specially designed interface, in demonstrating problem-solving skills that rivaled many accepted sapient species. When the presentation ended, one of the council members, a floating jellyfish-like being from Andromeda Station, spoke in bubbling tones that the translator rendered as words. This is unprecedented. A species elevated from animal classification to pre-sapient status through human intervention. How typical of your kind. Marcus wasn't sure if that was meant as a compliment or criticism. He decided it didn't matter. What mattered was the Kithari beside him, now pressing its nose against the glass one more time, studying its reflection with intelligent eyes. The creature knew itself. It understood that it existed, that it was separate from the world around it yet connected to it. It had learned to see itself through human eyes, and in doing so, had become something more than instinct and hunger. Marcus placed his hand on the glass, watching his own reflection. The Kithari placed its paw beside his hand, their reflections touching. In that moment, Marcus understood something profound about his own species. Humans had a gift for seeing the person inside the beast, the intelligence waiting to bloom, the potential for connection where others saw only danger. It was humanity's greatest strength, and perhaps its greatest vulnerability. The willingness to say "that's you" to the growling predator, to teach it to see itself, to believe in its capacity for more. The Kithari made that wondering trill again, and Marcus smiled. "Yeah," he said softly, "that's us.